The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern on the Talkstar Radio Network and our fine family of broadcast affiliates across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, 20 Asian countries, and now across Europe. If you'd like to give us a call tonight and speak to our guest in the first 2 hours, David Icke is going to be joining me. Our toll-free number is 1-877-528-8255. That's toll-free at 1-877-528-8255. Email xzone@talkstarradio.com. On MSN Messenger, you can chat with me here in our studios, talkstarradio@hotmail.com. And to join the X-Zone Nation, where you can listen, watch, and chat live, www.xzonetv.com. And then, of course, our main website is www.xzoneradio.com. My guest tonight, my first guest for a couple of hours, is David Icke. He's joining us all the way from his home in the United Kingdom. Peter Robbins is scheduled in hour number 2 talking about the Roswell Conference. And then hour number 3, which is basically hour number 4 tonight, we're going to be talking about the crystal skulls, Mitchell Hedges' crystal skull of doom, and the hoax that has been perpetrated behind this, how can I best say it, this questionable artifact that even the Smithsonian Institute says it's not real. That's tonight here on the X-Zone. Once again, 1-877-528-8255. David Icke is my first guest tonight, and David has been on the show before. It's always great having David on. He's a British writer and public speaker who has devoted himself since 1990 to researching who and what is really controlling the world. He is a former professional football player, reporter, television sports presenter, spokesperson for the Green Party, and he is the author of over 20 books explaining his views. Now, David argues that he has developed a moral and political worldwide view that New Age spiritualism, with a passionate denunciation of what he sees as a totalitarian trends in modern world, at a position that has been described as New Age conspiracism. And David Icke, how are you, David? Nice having you back here on the X-Zone.
Thank you, Rob. There's nothing New Age about me, though. That's not where I'm coming from at all. That's a myth.
Well, you know what? There are many myths out there, David, and since you...
there are endless numbers of myths, like we live in a free world. That's the greatest one.
I don't know, David. I think that's the biggest lie that's out there. You know, David, since you and I last talked, there have been so many things that have happened in the world. 9/11 is one of them. You know, and the oil crisis and the suppression of information when it actually comes to who is really running the world. And first of all, Dave, thank you very much for getting up at this hour. I believe it's 3 o'clock your time.
Yes, it is 3:10.
My goodness.
I'm just entering the land of the living slowly, Rob. Yeah.
Well, we're going to make it as painless for you as we can, David. We're going to take a 2-minute break. David Icke is our very special guest. It's great having David back here in the X Zone. And his website is www.davidicke.com. 1-877-528-8255 is toll-free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. David and I will be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as we start tonight for this second day of June in the year 2008 here in the X Zone. My producer tonight is my buddy Batman. Nice working with you, Batman, and I'm really happy to hear you had a good weekend. Everybody deserves a good weekend, and let's start this show off. David Icke and I will return in 2 minutes right here on the X Zone. David Icke is our special guest, 1-877-528-8255, or you can ask questions on the X Zone chat at www.xzonetv.com, and I'll be more than happy to relay your questions to David. David, I was wondering, maybe for the listeners who had never had the opportunity of hearing you, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your views on life.
Crikey, how long you got? I started out as a professional soccer player, and then arthritis ended that at the age of 21, and I became a journalist, a newspaper journalist, a radio journalist, a television journalist. And then, cut a long story short, I had some extraordinary experiences in the late 80s, early 90s, which opened my mind massively to a much bigger picture of life and what was going on in the world. And I started on a journey of answering questions like, who are we, where are we, what are we doing here, who really runs world events and controls the direction that we're all going. And over the last 20 years, traveling and researching and talking in something like 45 countries now, and researching full time in that period, I've put together a vast tapestry of interconnected information to show that actually, if you take one of those questions, the world is controlled by very few people. And they have an agenda to create a global Orwellian state, centralized Orwellian state. And, of course, when I started talking about this in the early 90s and writing about it, it was a great joke. You know, I mean, Ike's gone mad and he's having a midlife crisis. But all these years later, anyone that knows what I'm saying and has said all these years, and then looks at the world as it unfolds on the TV news every day now, he's no longer laughing. And people are now coming up to me constantly in Britain and saying, sorry, basically, because we laughed at you and ridiculed you all those years ago, but my goodness, it's happening. And because, as I said years ago, there's always a window when something is being covertly manipulated into place. There's always a window where they're getting so close to their goal that the covert becomes the overt. It breaks the surface where it can be seen, and it has to. If the covert manipulation is designed to change global society in a certain way, there comes a point where that starts to manifest in people's everyday lives.
David,
that's the point we've now reached, and so we're in a position where this is no longer a forward projection, sometime over the rainbow, sometime never, maybe, something for our children to worry about. This is happening now, and of course, if there's a few of you and you want to control the many, crucial to that, fundamental to that, is the centralization of decision-making. And this is why we're seeing the explosion of centralization of power in all areas of our lives. And in the public arena, it goes under the name of things like globalization. But it's happening everywhere, in media ownership, in the ownership of the transnational corporations, in government decision-making with the European Union and the American Union that is being orchestrated behind the scenes. In all areas of our lives, we're seeing the centralization of power, and we've got this now, this new buzz phrase that I hear all the time, international law. Is it international law apply here? Is it in line with international law? Or we must have international law on this, we must have international law on that. Now, what is international law? It's a law that everyone on the planet, no matter what background, what culture, what country, has to obey. If you want a centralized global state, you must have international law, because that's the way that you centrally dictate to everybody. So these things are now becoming everyday things. And even some of the more concrete-minded who really would wish, and I wish too, unfortunately it's not the case, who really wish this would just go away, and it's not really happening, are now starting to see that they have to start looking at this, because we're going to stand on the sidelines saying, is this an Orwellian state coming in, or is it not? What do you think? Let's have a debate. Let's get some minutes and have a meeting. We're going to be doing that. And then suddenly there's going to be a click. And that click is going to be the collective cell door shutting. And then it's going to be too late. So what I've been doing all these years is trying to alert people with increasing success to what is actually happening. Because the mainstream media ain't going to tell you, that's for sure.
David, over here in North America, we see what is going on and the preparations for the North American Union. And yet, politicians will still deny it left, right, and center. They say, oh, come on, we're just having these meetings that will make living better for everyone. We'll open up the trade doors. We'll do this, we'll do that. Well, excuse me, what is the North American Union? It doesn't exist. Oh, yes, it does. Why? Do they really think that people are that stupid?
Well, I'm afraid they do, and some of them are that stupid. That's the thing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been getting across now for nearly 20 years is the structure through which this whole control by the few can happen, because it has to be a simple structure. The world may appear complex in the way it plays out in our daily experience, and at that level it is in many ways. But at the core, it's much more simple. You have a structure whereby virtually everything in the world, every organization, even the kind of things that you're talking about now with some lower-ranked politicians involved, you have a situation where virtually every organization is a compartmentalized pyramid. At the top, you've got the tiny few who know what that organization, that bank, that government, that organization manipulating the North American Union is really there to do. You know what the goal is. You know how it all fits together. But the further you come down from these pyramids, from the peaks, you're meeting more and more and more people who know less and less and less about what the few at the top know. They're just people who are given as much information as is necessary for them to do their job or to act and react in the way the few at the top want them to. And you can do this by for instance, selling to someone who is maybe a politician and not a very well read and researched one, which I have to say is the vast majority, in my experience, all over the world. And you sell them an idea that centralization of this and North American Union or a European Union, as we have now over here, well entrenched and advanced, is a good thing because it will have this outcome or that outcome or the other outcome. And what you don't tell them is the real reason for the centralization of power, which is to allow the few to control the many. See, what's happening in terms of the North American Union is exactly what happened in Europe. There's a mass mind manipulation technique that I call the totalitarian tiptoe. And that's when you are at stage A and you know you're going to stage Z or Z. Mm-hmm. And you know that if you go from A to Z in a big leap, then the change is going to be so vast and so massive that even those, watching the game shows and, calling people in the room because the lady's going for the car are actually going to lift their head and go, hold on a second, what's happening? What's happening here? So you don't do that. You go from A to B to D, to E, to H, and you make the leaps as big, and therefore you advance your agenda as fast as you can, but not so fast that enough people start to wake up and see that there's something going on. And that's what happened in Europe with the European Union. That's what's happening with the American Union now. We were sold a free trade area, the common market.
That's
you
right.
were sold, in fact, not even sold, had imposed upon you a free trade area called NAFTA.
Yep.
And then the stepping stones start. Oh, well, it would be much more efficient if we just had harmonization. That's the great thing. Harmonization of law between countries. What am I talking about? International law. And so we've got this organization with its long name, meaning the Food Code or the Food Book, which is designed to take away our rights to have access to food supplements and other things and other health supplements. And they're doing it because through saying we must have the harmonization of law across the world in relation to food supplements, etc. And what they mean is international law, and that means that everyone has to obey it, and that means they can deny the freedom to have access to these food supplements to everyone on the planet, which this thing is involved.
It's just like...
So you get this all along. And in the European Union, this stepping stone now has reached the point where we have a fascist dictatorship in Europe. And that's no exaggeration. We have a thing called the European Parliament, which has got no power whatsoever worth the name. The power in the European Union is with the bureaucracy, with the European Commission, as it's called. And they dictate law, and any a law that is passed in a European national parliament that is at odds with European Union law does not stand. And all national law is subordinate now to European law. And we're now at the point with this introduction of this outrageous European Union treaty, this new one, where we're going to have a European Union foreign ministry. They want a European army and all the rest of it. And this is a mirror of what they want for North America. And,
David, please stand by. You and I have to take our commercial break with the news here.
They know.
My special guest is David Icke, and David and I will be back on the other side of the news. His website is www.davidicke.com. 1-877-528-8255 is the toll-free number, and David Icke and I will be back on the other side of this break right here on Talkstar.
Can't walk.
I can walk, but not very far.
I can't even stand anymore.
And it gave me no freedom.
If you or a loved one suffer from limited mobility, we have incredible news. Now you may qualify for your very own new Invacare power chair or scooter at little or no cost to you. Call Mobility Products Unlimited right now to begin your free pre-qualification process. Invacare's powered mobility products are comfortable, stylish, easy to maneuver, and go anywhere.
And yes, you can get back out there too with Invacare.
So pick up the phone and call Mobility Products right now, risk-free. Their friendly specialists handle all the paperwork and make it fast and easy to begin the pre-qualification process for your very own Invacare power chair or scooter. You could get yours within just days. There's no pressure, no obligation, no cost for the call. And your satisfaction is guaranteed.
So if you're stuck at home, call 1-800-594-5356 right now. Friendly mobility specialists are standing by.
Whether it's the arrival of Planet X in 2012, the Earth's crazy weather cycles, our deadly global warming, Armageddon, UFOs, ETs, terrorism, the critical mass 2008 presidential elections, Dr. Jason Rand talks the talk and walks the walk. Being a twice-nominated Grammy record producer, recording artist, publisher, lecturer, UFO ET researcher and investigator, and best-selling author of The Return of Planet X, Mankind's Ongoing Legacy with a Brown Dwarf Star, Dr. Jason Rand truly does walk the walk and talk the talk. For more information on Dr. Jason Rand or to order The Return of Planet X, visit his website at www.returnofplanet-x.com or call 901-336-9660. And where will you be in the year 20?
You're listening to the X Zone Radio Show live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network. Visit us online at
www.xzone-radio.com.
Hi, this is Ken Elliott. When I'm floating around the universe, I always try to tune in to Rob McConnell.
Hi, ho there, Timothy Frog on Sesame Street. When I want to find out what's going on with UFOs or ghosts, I listen to the X Zone with Rob McConnell.
This is Les Corrigan from Target Internet Development. You're listening to Rob McConnell on the X Zone Radio Show.
This is John Hogue, prophecy scholar, and you're listening to Rob McConnell in the X Zone.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Well, it's all right. Riding around in the breeze. Well, it's all right. If you live the life you please. Well, it's all right. Doing the best you can. Well, it's all right. As long as you lend a hand. You can sit around.
David Icke is our very special guest the first 2 hours of tonight's show. David's website is www.davidicke.com. David, great having you back with us here in the X Zone. And one of our listeners, David, has asked me if I could ask you a question before we get back into the conversation. They would like to know, where did I put it down? Oh, your opinion on Rh negative O blood.
Well, that whole thing is a big area of interest in terms of who actually controls the world. Not particularly that type of blood, but bloodline is very, very important to these people. They have interbred with each other incessantly through the ages. They produced and became the royal families and the royal lines of Europe eventually, and the aristocracy of Europe. And then through the colonial expansion of the European nations, particularly the British, the French too, and others, but particularly the British, they expanded this bloodline around the world, and they've become the elite families, not just the royal families, because after a time people began to rebel against control by overt in-your-face royal dictatorship. So they moved into what I call the dark suit professions of politics and business ownership and all the rest of it. But it's remarkable how many presidents of the United States, for instance, go back to the aristocracy and royal lines of Europe. And when you do the research, that's not a surprise and it's not an accident, because they are obsessed with bloodline. Mm-hmm. And I go into this background in the books, because it goes way back, thousands and thousands of years, and then some. So, we can, talk about different types of blood, but, there's a hell of a lot more to know about that. The thing is, these people are obsessed with genetics and are obsessed with protecting a particular DNA. And so you have the Eastern establishment families of the United States interbreeding just like the European aristocracy have always done. Because they're trying to hold a particular DNA, which will be diluted very quickly when it's interbred with the general population. And this is not a racial thing in terms of Earth races. It's a bloodline that has been, if you like, impregnated into all races all around the world. This goes back a very long time, and it's these people that tend to end up in the positions of power. Not always, because they use a lot of people that just front up for them. Some of whom, as we discussed earlier, not really understand the full nature of what they're fronting up and what's really going on. If you want a politician who is just interested in pursuing power and status for its own sake, then he or she will do what is necessary to achieve that. And what is necessary is to get the money and the power behind you, so that you can win an election and become a president or prime minister. And to do that, you do what those with the money and power tell you to do, both in the pursuit of power and once you've achieved power in terms of changes in legislation and changes, therefore, in society. So. But overwhelmingly, the major positions of power, which often are not actually those in the public arena, but those that are behind those in the public arena. A classic case: does anyone really think George Bush runs the United States? I mean, please, But the real power is invariably this bloodline, which goes back a very, very long time.
Speaking of bloodlines, what do you think really happened with Princess Diana? Was she rubbed out because her bloodline wasn't that pure? And
well, I don't think it was about that, but certainly she was removed. And I know quite a lot about this. I did quite a section of a book I wrote called The Biggest Secret about this, and a lot of the information that I came across came from a lady called Christine Fitzgerald. Now, she is an alternative healer who Diana went to for something like 9 years, and she operated out of an alternative clinic in London near Regent's Park, where London Zoo is. And I was invited to go and speak to a small group of people at the British Houses of Parliament, in the House of Lords part of it, about this conspiracy. And there was a lady there who was saying some very interesting things about Diana. I mean, we're going back some years now. And afterwards I said to her, it's very interesting what you were saying. How do you know this? And she said, my best friend, turns out to be this lady Christine Fitzgerald, was one of Diana's best friends for a long, long time. And she said, I think I can get her to talk to you. Well, 2 weeks later she arrives where I live, and we talked for hours, and then I met her again, and we had another long chat, and I recorded the whole interview. And many of the things that have come out since were told to me all those years ago. This is not that long after Diana died, 97. Were told to me years ago by Christine Fitzgerald. And if I'll give you one example for anyone that thinks that the British royal family wouldn't take someone out. When Diana's relationship with Charles began to break down and basically became a farce and was over in everything but name, she started a relationship with a guy called Barry Manicky, who was her bodyguard. And suddenly Barry Manicky died in a motorcycle accident, which a number of people have questioned in terms of whether it was an accident or not. Well, if they knew what I was told, then they would, even more so. Because Christine Fitzgerald told me that one day she was at the clinic and suddenly Diana arrived in absolute unconsolable distress to just pouring out the tears, and eventually she said, they killed him, and Diana is distraught, and Christine Fitzgerald said she was trying to calm her down, and eventually she got into a conversation. Well, they killed who? Who are you talking about? And she told the story that Prince Charles's chief detective, this is some time after Barry Manicky was killed, and Diana accepted the fact originally that it was a motorcycle accident. She said that Prince Charles's chief detective had just said to her that by this time Diana is having a relationship with a man called Captain James Hewitt, who is well known for his relationship with Diana. And she said that Prince Charles's chief detective had said that the Hewitt relationship was not acceptable, and that if it didn't end, then Hewitt would end up like Barry Manicky. And the detective, she said to Diana, and don't think that you're indispensable either. And after Diana's death, Captain James Hewitt actually said on television programs and in national newspapers that he, in fact, was approached himself by a member of the royal family to be told that the relationship with Diana was, quote, not supported, and unless it ended, they couldn't be responsible for his security, with the very clear implication that his health would not be benefiting from this relationship continuing. And he said in his interviews that Barry Manicky was mentioned, and Christine Fitzgerald was also telling me how friendly people, as she put it, at MI5, the domestic intelligence agency in Britain, as opposed to MI6, which is the external agency, at least in theory, would leave messages at her healing clinic for Diana to pick up. And these messages included the theme that she had to be very, very careful, because there were powers in the background that were planning to get rid of her, basically. And, of course, years and years later, the butler of Diana, Burrell, revealed a letter which Diana wrote saying that she felt that her husband, Prince Charles, was planning to kill her in a car accident. When you look at the background to the British royal family, who are one of these bloodlines, it's very clear that these people have no compunction about taking people out who are a problem to them. And Diana, Rob, by the time she died, was a major, major problem to them. She knew where the bodies were buried, symbolically and possibly literally, but certainly in terms, she knew the secrets of the British royal family, of many of them. And she was showing increasingly that she was prepared to reveal them. She went on a BBC national mainstream primetime current affairs program called Panorama, and did a long interview in which she talked about the background to her relationship with Charles and the involvement of Camilla Parker Bowles, and the fact that the relationship between her and Charles had never ended, even when he married her. And so it was very clear that this was a lady who was prepared to speak out and reveal what would have been devastating to the British royal family. So it's no surprise that she was taken out. This is why the traffic cameras between the Ritz Hotel in Paris and the Pont d'Alma tunnel where she died went out in that period where the car was making that journey. What are the chances of that? People say, oh, was it a Fiat Uno, and what really happened? I went to Paris, Rob, as part of my research for that book, and there is a traffic camera right on top of the Pont d'Alma tunnel looking down onto the road where you enter the tunnel. If that camera had been working, along with the other 16 on the route, there would have been no controversy about, Fiat Unos and what happened and paparazzi, how close were they and all this stuff. We'd have just put the tape in the machine and press the button, and there you go. And there was another gentleman in the same period who, in the same area of the Pont d'Alma tunnel at that time, who was one of these amateur radio guys, buffs, who listens to police frequencies and listens to the police communication activity. Some people seem to, like doing that. And this was one of them, and he was not far from the Eiffel Tower, which is just across the river from the Pont d'Alma tunnel. And he said they didn't realize it at the time, what the significance of it, until the next morning when he put the news on. But in the half an hour before that crash in the tunnel and going across it and for some time afterwards, all the police frequencies in that area of Paris, at least that area, went down at the same time that the traffic cameras were going down. So exactly what the network was that did it and who actually gave the order, we can debate, but the fact that there's an overwhelming case for the fact that was not no accident is there for anyone who wants to look at the evidence.
David, one of our people on the chat would like to know if Diana said that her husband was an alien. Did she ever make that statement to you, to the best of your knowledge?
Well, no, I not that statement. No, what Christine Fitzgerald told me was that she used to refer to the British royal family as the reptiles or the lizards, and she used to say, according to Christine, in all seriousness, they're not human. That's the quote that was given to me, and it is a fact. I can say this after 20 years of full-time research right across the world, that the world is not just a little bit not like we think it is. It is nothing like we think it is. And there are many influences on life within this reality, which is just a tiny frequency range called visible light, which our five senses can access, that are not coming from within this reality.
All right, David, let's take a break here. We've got to come back in a couple of minutes.
That's for sure.
David, we've got to take a break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. David Icke is our very special guest. www.davidicke.com. David is going to be with us in the next hour. We're going to be touching the reptilian factor. We're going to ask David about 9/11, and we're going to be taking more of your questions, either on phone at 1-877-528-8255 or on the X Zone chat at www.xzonetv.com. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is the X Zone live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, X Zone TV, and on shortwave.
I feel young. I act young. I am young. I'm only 45. So imagine my surprise recently when I was attending my son's high school graduation ceremony and someone asked me which one was my grandchild. Did I look that old? And the answer was in the mirror. My wrinkles were adding years to my looks. I had to do something, but shots of Botox or a facelift was the last thing I wanted to resort to. Then a friend of mine introduced me to Hydroderm. Hydroderm is a proven anti-aging serum that helps reduce the appearance of wrinkles while encouraging a smooth, youthful look and feel to skin. Well, it worked. No more grandma face for me, and my husband hasn't looked at me like this in years. Well, call now for a free 14-day trial of Hydroderm, absolutely risk-free. Your free trial of Hydroderm is just a phone call away. Here's the number, 1-800-263-0613. Call now before this risk-free offer expires. 1-800-263-0613. Toll free, 1-800-263-0613.
Are you looking for a way to restore the love and security you once experienced in your marriage? Then call 877-544-4252, and America's #1 marriage expert, Dr. Willard Harley, will send you his 12-CD marriage building course, a $390 value, yours free to try for 30 days. Just pay shipping and handling. Your companion will fall passionately back in love or return the course and owe nothing. To order, call 877-544-4252, 877-544-4252. Call now. Is your marriage in trouble? Now, I don't want you to stay in a bad relationship. What I want to show you is how to make your marriage the best marriage on earth, how to get your needs met, and how to meet your spouse's needs. It doesn't matter if there's infidelity or even if you're on the verge of divorce or recently divorced. Simply call this number, 877-544-4252, and we'll send you Dr. Harley's 12-CD marriage building course, a $390 value for a free 30-day trial.
David Icke is my special guest this hour. David will be with us in the next hour as well. And still to come tonight, Joshua Shapiro will be joining us to talk about the crystal skulls. 1-877-528-8255, toll free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. David's website is www.davidicke.com. David, before we went to the commercial break, you said the world is not as we see it.
Yeah, in many ways, Rob. I mean, it's not just about non-human entities. It's about the nature of reality. And my whole thrust of where my research is going is into the nature of reality, because to understand the foundation of this conspiracy and how the few can control the many, you really need to understand what reality is and how we create it, because these few in the shadows understand this. And imagine if you understand how people are creating reality, and the people you want to manipulate have no idea how they're creating reality. They think this world is solid and everything's apart from everything else, and everything that happens in the world is random and they have no control over it. Then you are in a staggeringly powerful position of power to manipulate the reality of the mass of the people to be the reality that suits your agenda. So understanding the illusory nature of reality, illusory in the physical world sense, is crucial to understanding the real depths of this. Because, you know, we can talk about banking scams and political scams and manipulated events like 9/11 and all this stuff, and we should. We need to know this stuff. But if we don't get deeper down the rabbit hole to understand the real foundation, not just how it's playing out, but where it's originating from, then we're just going to learn more and more about our prison. And you know, if you're a prisoner in a cell, and all you're doing is learning more and more and more and more about the prison you're in, well, you know, it's interesting and it's helpful to an extent, but it ain't going to get you out of jail. We need to understand what the prison is, and the prison is a reality construct, which it's like a holographic internet. I mean, maybe we could talk about this in the second hour. Sure. And it's this which is holding us in servitude, and it's this we need to understand if we're going to get out of that servitude.
All right, David, please stand by. Again, I thank you very much for getting up at this very early hour in the United Kingdom. David Icke is our special guest, www.davidicke.com. 1-877-528-8255, toll free throughout the U.S., Canada, Alaska, and Hawaii. And, of course, we'll be taking more questions at the X-Zone chat at www.xzonetv.com. My name is Rob McConnell, David Icke, and I will be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past as we continue live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone TV, and on shortwave from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.